for me, at least in my specific circumstances, an absolute lightsaber.
Right.
I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for the PTSD clinic at the VA.
We're saying goodbye to the stigma around mental health with raw, real, and sometimes unconventional topics. Listener discretion is advised.
Thanks for coming on. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate you stopping out. Thanks, Lacey, for giving us our introduction here. But I think you could do the introduction a little bit better. So could you please tell us a
Yeah,
bit about
absolutely. My name's Hilton Dustin Simpson. That's what everybody knows me as far as being the government name, right? But Hilton was my daddy, so I don't go by Hilton. My mama couldn't call Hilton, have us both come running, right?
yourself? Right.
So yeah, so I go by Dustin. My mom watched The Graduate, went into labor. I ended up Dustin. Go figure. So I'm law enforcement. I joined the Marine Corps back in 2001. I did 11 years before I got medically separated. Police officer, K-9 handler with the Marine Corps. I went to work for the DOD as a K-9 handler, police officer for about 6 years. And then my heart's always been with mental health and with veterans. And somebody said, hey, the VA's got cops. And I was like, really?
I thought the same thing.
Right. Everybody thinks that. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
VA's got cops. I figure it was just like hospital security, right? So I was like, no. And it's a federal gig. I mean, how can you beat that, right?
I don't even think I know like necessarily what you guys do still.
Right.
To this day.
Listen,
It's so elusive.
I tell people all the time, we're like secret squirrels because we're feds. No, not really. But so as a federal police officer with the VA, we maintain all federal property that belongs to the VA, all crimes that happen on federal property. We even go as far as to do crimes that happen to veterans. So fiduciary abuse, elder abuse, man, you see that a lot.
Yeah.
Coming in, you'll see people taking advantage of veterans financially. And more often than not, it's family members that are doing it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So we deal with that. Fraud, waste, and abuse kind of stuff that we have to deal with. But a lot of times it's just being there and being on the facility, dealing with stuff that happens. Everybody talks about, hospital cops. I used to do new employee orientation for the VA. So I'd always tell them, I'm like, how many of you guys worked at local hospitals around? You remember that guy with the radio and the flashlight? Yeah, that's not us. I was like, I can take you to jail. It's a big difference.
Right. Yeah. No, I haven't been to James A. Haley. I haven't been to any other local, VAs besides Bay Pines.
Okay. Great facility.
Yeah, beautiful
Great people.
views.
Beautiful,
right on the
beautiful
water.
campus.
See the
Oh,
dolphins
yeah.
in the water right outside.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing. But I've had, as we discussed off camera, I've had plenty of run-ins with the mental health clinic, the PTSD clinic
Yeah.
over in Bay Pines, and it is, for me, at least in my specific circumstances, an absolute lightsaber.
Right.
I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for the PTSD clinic at the VA. So
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, working closely with the PTSD clinic, working with the mental health clinic, being somebody who's diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety myself. I mean, it's watching others go through that process and knowing that I've been through it myself. It's really great to see the strides that they're making. For us here locally, we used to be in an old business park, and it was a small little office. And
yeah.
as cops, we didn't have any jurisdiction other than in the office building. So, hey, you got in a car wreck out in the parking lot? Yeah, we can't help you. Sorry, buddy. We'll call Tampa.
That's crazy. So what I was thinking about is, maybe it happened to you, or maybe it didn't when you were a kid, but like when you would hurt yourself as a kid, and your parent would, and you were good up until your parent came up to you and was like, "Hey, Dustin, are you okay?" And
Right.
and you're just start crying because you're like a little kid, and your parents, finally check in on you, and you're like, they care about me, kind of thing. But
Right,
I'm
the
hurt.
acknowledgement.
Yeah, so that's like the first time in my life as an adult how I felt that way was I was holding myself together on the outside until I got to the VA, and I got into the the mod sections where we see our primary care.
Right.
And then I talked to the mental health nurse, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And it just triggered such a core memory as a child of I just had that moment of comfort where I'm finally someone asked me that question, because I've been hiding behind my my own like emotions for the longest time. And then
Right.
someone finally asked me, and it was crazy how that expression alone can evoke such a powerful response from somebody who needs that question asked.
Absolutely. And, I think that's where a lot of veterans, we need that question asked. Because what is one thing, I mean, all veterans, it doesn't matter, I'll talk crap that, I was in the Marine Corps, we're the best of the best. And,
Tip the
we're
spear, man.
tip of the spear. I mean, the crayons and the glue hold us together.
Yeah.
So, but the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Air Force, Chair Force, whatever you want to call them. No, I'm just kidding.
Good guys.
Some of my best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart folks.
Smart folks. They did the right thing. But the biggest thing is we all have an ego, and it's something that they teach us in boot camp. They drill into you that you're invincible. You need to be strong. You need to be, the tip of the spear. You need to be a rock.
That mental toughness that we always talk about.
Mental toughness, right? Yeah. Testicular fortitude or ovarian fortitude, if you're female, I guess.
One of the-
Whatever.
yeah.
So it's, but we carry that on even after we get out, and we try and hold that as that we're a rock. We don't have that. And as soon as, no matter, like you said, if we're dying on the inside, just in shambles. And I know that for me, I was there. I was in shambles on the inside, trying to hold it together, to be a rock, to know that, I need to be the strongest, and because that's what my family needs. They need to see me as the picturesque statue of just, everything that there is in protection.
Yeah.
So needing somebody to say to me, "Are you okay?" And it breaks that wall down. Because for so long we try and hide it. It's what we all need. It's just for somebody to say, "Hey, buddy, are you okay? You doing all right?" And
Yeah, I mean, it definitely pushes you over the edge when you're at that breaking point, when you're just waiting for that single straw. I think, in general, as men, as the father figures of our household, as veterans, as law enforcement, current and former, we have this self-obligation, right, to have this. No one's telling us to do it. It's just how it's molded and hardened within our bodies,
Right.
within our minds and our souls to have the tough exterior, to be brave for your family, to be courageous for your family. If there's a crisis in your family, you see like in the movies, like the mom's falling apart and the dad's just like, "We got this, guys."
Right.
But then it just kind of brushed off in Hollywood.
yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of thing. Like the men are supposed to be, especially when they're soldiers or the Marines or anything there in between, these stone-faced individuals. But little do they know, in reality, you're going through crisis yourself. You're looking at your family. You're emotionally like falling apart, and there's times where the word suicide does come through your head, and the whole entire part of being strong for your family and all this stuff kind of goes out the window. And
Yeah.
and you say, like, in hindsight, you're like, "Man, my kids are the only reason why I'm alive."
Oh,
And it's such a sobering thing to say, because, and to this day, like, it's hard to say without like it's like I'm swallowing a freaking rock, trying to let those
I
words
just
come
felt
out.
that
my mouth.
rock go down.
Yeah, but like, I love my kids to death, and I think we jokingly say, "Man, the kids are going to be the death of me sometimes," but
Absolutely.
but they're the absolute sole thing that's keeping me on this earth.
Right.
Because without them, I don't think I'd have the drive and will to be here right now from all that I've been through.
Absolutely. And one of the core memories I have from the Marine Corps is being a police officer. One of the things I responded to was an 11-month-old that we got the call, "Hey, we got a kid not breathing, unresponsive." Man, so if you're familiar with Cherry Point in the Marine Corps, for anybody who knows, you have housing on base and you have housing off base. And one of the housing areas that we were in, that this particular incident happened in, was off-base housing right outside of it. And so I was a young corporal in the Marine Corps, and I was like, right there. So I responded. And when I get there, there's just a mother and a father just wailing and crying as one of their friends was there trying to hold the child doing CPR, grab the child, do CPR in the yard. I was there for 9 minutes by myself, and being on a call, being law enforcement, I mean, every minute feels like a freaking eternity.
Someone's coming for you, but it's just not fast enough.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm doing CPR and I'm looking up. I can see the back of the fire department, the off-base fire department that runs all the out-base housing. And I'm like, where are they? I mean, they could walk here and they're not here. So I'm sitting there, I'm on the radio in between, compressions on a child. I'm like, am I doing this right? I don't know if I'm doing this right. And I'm on the radio, like I said, I'm yelling, where's the fire department? I can see the back of the fire department. I need somebody here that knows more than I do. Not trusting myself in that situation because I'm like, I know I've been trained. I know all this stuff. And, whether it goes to conscious, subconscious, but we're waiting and I'm waiting. EMS says, okay, we're on such and such street. Where do we go? And I just remember in my heart, it just sank. And I'm like, you're in the wrong housing area. I mean, how are you the ambulance service on base for the base hospital and you don't even know where you're going? I mean, that should be like prime. And the dispatcher's like, people talk crap about dispatchers, but when you have a good dispatcher, they make a world of difference.
Oh yeah.
Somebody who can
relate.
Somebody who can calm me down on the radio.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Simpson, it's okay. It's okay. We got this. You keep doing what you're doing, and, but the point of that story is all that, as horrible as that is, and I'm doing with this, as I'm doing CPR, I'm looking up, I see the back of my house because I lived right down the street. And in that house, my 2 older children, my daughter, who's now 19, was 11 months old. So here I am doing CPR on this child who's the same age as my daughter who's asleep, and I can see my house. And I just remember it's like, everything just was all these emotions, but you can't break because we're taught to be strong. I have to be strong for these parents. I have to be strong for this child, and then 30 years later when backup finally arrived and everybody showed up, I just remember they're like, okay, I need you to go stand perimeter because the house is now a crime scene and you got to stand perimeter. And I'm like,
wouldn't be a fucking crime scene, man, if they showed up on time. I'm so sorry, bro. I'm having such a hard time holding my tongue.
No, that's
no
all right.
offense to our firefighters. I mean, I'm sure they're doing a great job and it was an honest mistake, but
I'm sure it was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we do medical calls too that all the time and on the base when I was there. And so you got to know the nurses and stuff in the ER as you'd go bring Marines in, whatever, how many ever stories I got with that. But I had talked to one later on. She's like, dude, the kid was in the ER an hour prior. She's like, I stuck him to draw blood and he didn't flinch. And the doctor was like, oh, he's fine. Just a bug, send him home. And an hour later, the father was trying to calm the child, had him asleep on his chest. So I don't think it was SIDS. He didn't roll over on him, nothing like that. The kid, I never found out what the cause was.
Yeah.
But I just know that.
That's tough for closure.
Yeah. So, and I think that's one of the things with law enforcement too, that we're expected. We see this trauma, and we deal with, like you said, we were talking about off camera, you deal with suicide with somebody else, which, I had those calls too, and you don't even know this person, but you see, this person who chose this way out. I'm a firm believer that it's a long-time fix for a short-term problem.
100%.
Absolutely should never be on the table. But we deal with this, and then we're expected just to go, hey, you're done, move right along.
No debrief.
No debrief.
No nothing.
Go stand perimeter. It's now a crime scene.
Yeah.
Here I'm in the back, and I'm like, I remember there was toads, huge toads, that were out in the back of this property where I'm standing perimeter now, where this kid had just died or was dead when I showed up. And doing CPR on somebody that's blue is just, it's rough. But kids have the best recovery, so they tell you to keep going.
Man, I wish I can I don't know any statistics when it comes to that specific scenario, but from my own statistics, from my experience, and I'm sure that in yours as well, I've been to so many calls with like old people who have hurt themselves, and they are fine after they go to the hospital. I've watched a child float in a pool on CCTV camera for 4 minutes and die. I've my first call for service when I was a cop, when I was cut loose, the first call was a kid who drank bleach, and right after that, it was a kid who wasn't breathing, and his mom and dad, kind of same exact situation. You just described my first call, pretty much my first death investigation, and it was a 3-month-old, and the parents put the child down on her chest and said, "Hey, she can lift her head up. It's strong enough to lift her head." So we put pillows underneath it to make her more comfortable, and she slipped between the pillow and the pack and play and died of positional asphyxiation. And
Right.
you can literally hear, I was driving my car around the property, and this is like up in kind of by King High School in Tampa by Busch Gardens.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm turning the corner with my windows down in my Crown Vic, and I hear the engine of my car, and I'm like 200-300 yards away from the address, and I hear the screaming from the road, and it's just like blood curdling. And it's like that. I'm getting goosebumps. 'Cause
Right.
Like
So,
it's
so
still,
am I, 'cause
it still sticks with me to this day, and it's been such a long time that it's happened. But I can still smell the inside of that house. I can
Yeah.
still feel the stiffness of her body. That was, she was deceased for 10 hours prior to me arriving. I still feel the emotions that I felt when I had to experience it, when the fire department wasn't showing up fast enough, because I just wanted to grab her and go. But then I realized as soon as I got there, I snapped back to reality, and I know she's dead. Like, I know I can't save her. I have to do Hollywood CPR.
Right.
And the fact that I had to do that the whole time, and then EMS hooks up the EKG, pronounces her deceased, and then the medical examiner's office has to do a walk-through reenactment of how she died with a baby doll while she's laying there deceased on the bed next to it. And it's just like, everything is, I mean, those things ruined my early career as a cop. And
Oh, yeah.
it gave me such a cynical, negative outlook on those things. It made me, that probably is what sparked all of my PTSD. Not the amount of times I've been shot at, not the
Right.
riots that were, preceding the whole George Floyd incident.
Right. Oh, that was horrible.
Not getting in fights with people threatening to kill me. It was the babies. And
Right.
because I'm a father and we're fathers, we're just like, we
Absolutely.
just instantly put your child's face and it's like you go to sleep at night, and these reoccurring dreams that you have are not of the kid, they're of your kid.
Absolutely.
And then you wake up and you're like either hopping out of your bed because it feels so real, or you get up and you feel like you're gonna have a heart attack.
Oh yeah,
So-
it's just, and it's crazy that our bodies responds to that, the way we relive that, and every time, like you said, it's like, that I will never forget the wails of that mother, and the father just sitting on the curb because he's not strong enough, or he can't do anything. He's depending on other people to do this for him, and it's
crippling.
it's
It's
absolute-
crippling.
I'm just trying to process this as I'm sitting here, and it's, and to deal with that, and that, like you said, it's the calls with the kids, because we see old people, we see they had a chance at life,
Yeah, they got a good run.
they had a good run. Hey, you're 50
Yeah.
years old, you're 60 years old, 80. The veterans we see.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart because I see these old people in a situation where they're dealing with their mental health, and then I see this young Iraq Afghan vet that's like, man, you're just starting out in life. Not that I'm old by any means, but
You have more life experience than these new boots coming in.
absolutely.
I mean, these new kids fresh out of boot camp, loving the core. The moment they get out, they're posting all their stuff, wearing their blues all the
Oh
time.
yeah, absolutely.
Their selfies and their new Camaros.
that's
But
that's exactly what it was.
But I mean, you've lived through it. You
Right.
know the paths to take now that you've already walked down the wrong ones. When you were younger, so you're trying to guide these people and be the voice
Right.
of reason and be the mentor that they need.
Yeah, it's watching mental health. So if you fast forward to my career here at the VA, so a lot of what we deal with is mental health situations. And that's kind of why we're there. One, people coming on property that don't belong on property, but a lot of it's disruptive behavior. So we're there to protect veterans. We're there to protect employees when things get crappy. So
I mean, everybody is there is trained in warfare.
Right.
So I mean, you're dealing with it. It's just like people how you like probably said when you were an E2,
Right.
when they're like, yeah, well the cops on the street, they don't deal with trained killers every day.
Right.
You're
What
like,
movie was that? I was thinking about that the other
I
day.
don't know what movie it's
like,
from,
how great are you? He's like, oh, I do the same thing you do, except that everybody I know is trained to kill.
Yeah.
And you know what's so? And you say that though.
Yeah.
So think about this. So
That's why they're so much more lethal to themselves, though.
right.
I mean, it's true.
Veterans, what do we have access to, man? We have access to firearms.
Absolutely.
We're access to, to do stupid things. Why do they give us good conduct medals in the military?
You didn't get caught.
Because you didn't get caught. But no, I think the military, when they created it, they realized that the certain amount of bravado and debauchery that people were going to do in the military. That's like, let's give them a reward system so that they don't keep doing this.
Reverse
kind of thing.
psychology.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Did it work? Absolutely
Sure
not. So now take a veteran who, and I always tell people this when we're dealing with disruptive behavior. So somebody who's not in the right mind, especially with somebody with like dementia, because we deal with a lot of dementia with the older veterans, psychosis with the younger veterans, whether it's alcohol-induced, drug-induced. I mean, PTSD, it's like something like 63% of veterans with PTSD have some sort of substance abuse. Mm-hmm. So we cover those pains with alcohol. We cover it with, drugs, reckless behavior. But when somebody isn't in their right mind and now they're put in a situation to where they have to defend themselves, they revert right back to the nature of what they were taught.
Yeah.
That goes to that conscious and subconscious mind. And, subconsciously, they're taught to defend themselves. What did we get beat into us in the Marine Corps boot camp for 13 weeks? Is to fight, survive. So when they're put in this situation, and now here I am as a law enforcement officer, I'm trying to de-escalate a situation with somebody who just is trying to survive. Like a rat in a maze, or somebody stuck in a corner and they can't do anything but fight to survive.
Right.
One of the biggest things for me is I'll look at a veteran and they'll just be a wreck, and they're wanting to act out, they're wanting to be verbally abusive to staff, they're wanting to throw things. And something I've always been good at, and then I've actually taken courses to better myself, is the de-escalation portion of it. And I'll just tell them, I was like, hey, from my own experience, I'll tell you, man, listen, I've been there. I've been where you're at. I've been at this low, like we talked about. There's times where we don't want to get out of bed. There's times that we look over and there's a 12-pack of alcohol, beer, bottles, liquor
Whatever
bottles,
it is, yeah.
whatever it is that we use to mask that's there. So I'll tell these guys, listen, I'm standing here with a gun and a badge. I'm a captain of a police department. I was able to overcome this. I was able to get help and go where I need to go to get treatment.
You're like, I'm the living testament of this is possible.
Absolutely.
I use that all the time with an employee that I have at work now. I'm just like, I'm a living testament. That
Right.
you can start from the grass and work your way up to a skyscraper.
Absolutely. Yeah. And build it up. And because, and being the living testament, like you said, being that for somebody who feels that they have nowhere to go, is just, it's amazing to watch them. And you tell them, listen, I've been here. I know where you're at. This behavior that you're exhibiting, it's not helping your cause.
Yeah.
I want you, let's take a deep breath. Let's calm down. What's your name? You start talking about different things that'll get them thinking and talking. I went through training with Lieutenant Kevin Dillon. He runs a program called LEADS, Law Enforcement Active Diffusion
I've heard of
Strategy.
LEADS, yeah.
Have you?
LEADS, yeah.
Listen, his course is phenomenal. It was so great. I enjoyed it so much that I went back and became a trainer to teach his course. And he talks about the center brain and emotion, and when somebody's dealing with emotions and how high they are, if you get them talking, it takes that oxygen that's running for the center brain, your limbic system, and it brings it to your frontal cortex. And so now they have to think about the questions you're asking them. Don't ever ask somebody yes or no questions. They always tell you ask open-ended questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me a story. Tell me about this. What service were you in? Are these your kids? Oh man, how many kids you got? Having them tell you a story, because now it's taking that oxygen to your frontal cortex, and they're stopping with the emotion because now they got to think and they got to process that. You're never going to deal with a situation that has emotion. If you get rid of the emotion, you can now deal with the actual issue that they have.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So while we wrap up, I want to kind of go over what
yeah,
we've
yeah.
talked about today. I mean, because we've touched on just we've like scratched the surface. Because I mean,
oh, right.
prior to the camera, we going on and the mic's being powered up, we were talking about we could sit here for a day if we
Hours.
needed to,
Yeah.
and just to really go on and on and on, because there is in fact so much to cover. There's so many different things out there, but that's why we have resources available for veterans too.
Absolutely.
I know that not all veterans may know where to get these resources. I know myself personally. Once I got my discharge papers and I had my DD-214 in hand, I wasn't sure what the first step was.
Right.
So, can you give me some sort of advice? If talk to me as if I was the veteran who just got out and I'm maybe I don't know where to start. Whether it's I went to TAPS and I just didn't really get it, and now I'm going through going
Right.
through some mental health crisis and I need help. But what do I do besides putting a gun to my head?
Well, first thing I would tell you to do is maybe sell all your firearms. No, I'm just kidding. You're going to need those. But the biggest thing is the VA has now opened up what's called the Compact Act. So big VA said, hey, we understand mental health is an issue. So now any veteran, it doesn't matter your discharge, it doesn't matter your time in service. If you are a veteran and you are having a mental health crisis, you can go to any emergency room.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So any emergency room you can go to, whether it's, Brandon Regional or TGH, it doesn't have to be a VA.
Wow.
If you are in crisis right then and there and you need to seek mental health, go to the emergency room.
Wow, I didn't know that at all. That's huge. I thought I had to drive all the way to James A. Haley.
No.
Yeah.
Go to the emergency room and the VA is going to cover it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to worry about the bills. You don't have to worry about anything.
Do you just tell them you're a veteran?
You just tell them you're a veteran.
Wow.
I'm a veteran. They'll do the whole, let the administrative people do that part of it.
Yeah, when the social worker comes in. and
Social
all that
worker,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Huge help when it comes to that. So you can go to any emergency room and seek any emergency service for your mental health because there is always a choice.
There is.
There's always a choice.
And
so
you gave me some of these too.
I did.
Tell me about them.
So we have a deflection team with the VA.
Okay.
It's myself, mental health, social work, veterans justice outreach. Our whole goal is to have veterans get the help that they need.
Yeah.
Prior to getting involved with the criminal justice system, because that's only going to up your PTSD. It's going to up your suicide rate. The numbers become astronomical when you start realizing veterans are in trouble. They actually say 31% of all, they did a 1.6 million veteran poll, and it was like 31% of all veterans in that have been arrested or been involved in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So, what we want to do with these cards is we came up with the idea of resources. Veterans, they need resources. Why do you don't want to sit and go through Google and search these resources? So let's have them all centralized.
Yeah.
So QR code, what do all veterans have? All homeless guys have? They all got phones.
Yeah. Phone.
So you do the QR code on there, and it'll bring you up to a website, the VA website. Click on it. It's 26 pages of resources.
Awesome. That's
So
a lot. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Well, look, man, I took it to the extreme a little bit. We for the James A. Haley, we have 5 counties that we deal with,
Right.
because we're spread out so big. So I wanted to have resources available in every county, not just the ones right around the VA.
Yeah.
Because if you're far out in Citrus County, how far are you from James A. Haley?
Is that the closest VA from Citrus?
So we have a clinic.
We have like little module, like Riverview Annex,
Right,
Like annexes,
yeah,
like one off
South
of Fletcher kind of thing.
Right. So
Okay.
we have primary care clinics, Lakeland,
But not
in
hospitals.
Tampa, but not hospitals.
Okay.
So the hospital itself is in Tampa, but we have veterans that go to these primary care annexes all throughout these counties.
Right.
So they need to have those resources. So with that, there's food, where you can get food if you're homeless. There's places for shelter. There's domestic violence centers. There's mental health services, all on there. So you go through, you scroll through, figure out what service you need, look in there, find something in your county that's going to be helpful to you. Just so it's just basically resources. And my goal is with these cards is to put them in the hand of every police officer in these 5 counties. Yep. So that they deal with veterans or with you in your situation, you know, you run into veterans every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why not have this? So the more that they know and the more resources that they have, you know, even if it's one life saved, that's what's important.
Yeah, I used to carry the Veterans Crisis Line cards in my breast pocket when I was a deputy.
Oh yeah,
and I wish it had this QR code on the back.
Right?
I wish it did because I would go to my computer and I'd pull up the James A. Haley website and pull up the links page, and it's like, you know, find out more, and I'd print it out in my carbon printer that I'd print citations on and give it to people.
Right.
But the thing is, if you're homeless, that paper becomes toilet paper that's, you know, covered in water in a second. This is made out of plastic.
Right, and that's why I did that. I mean, because I thought about business cards,
smart.
but business cards are going to get wet. They're going to get folded. You're going to get to where you can't read it. What happens if the QR code gets screwed up? Now you have it nothing. Like you said, it's going to become toilet paper or tinder for a fire to keep yourself warm. So they're hard plastic so that you can stick them in your pocket. You can stick them in your wallet. Deputies, you know, you can stick them in your little
you can put them underneath like a windshield wiper and leave it there, and it's good for until someone gets it.
Absolutely. You know, I didn't even think of that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's go in the parking lot just at the mall.
We're leaving, and we're going to litter this neighborhood full.
Absolutely. I got 5,000 of them I'm going to hand out. So we'll just start throwing them out of an airplane or something so it sprinkles down like, you know, psyop propaganda.
Veteran Santa Claus.
There you go. So, listen, there's resources out there. I've done hypnotherapy. I think I've done the CBT. I'm not a big fan of CBT.
I hated it personally.
Absolutely.
Can I just say something real quick about that?
Yeah.
I don't understand, and maybe this is just me, but why are you giving me homework for me to read the homework that I did to you? And that's called therapy. That's like, I was like, you told me to download my CPT app, and then I downloaded it, and I did these confusing questions because the questions are just like super vague, but yet they want it to be super specific. And and then I'm like, I'm not sure if this is helping me or just pissing me off.
It you know what? I actually did it twice. So I started and I stopped. And then I started again. I got a little further and I stopped.
I did the same thing.
So twice, right?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, CBT is cognitive behavior therapy.
Yeah.
Right. And then so it's basically trying to train yourself. This is how I feel when I have this emotion or when something like this. Big thing for mine we talked about with the child, right?
Yeah.
So control issues.
Yep.
You know, if I'm in control.
All my issues are.
Right?
All control.
All control. I need to be in
Codependency.
control.
Yeah.
I need to be in control because if I'm in control, nothing bad's going to happen.
100%.
So I know, like walking through the parking lot with my daughters at Costco, and this guy's like circling close, and I'm telling them, "Hey, move quicker to the store." And
I get upset, bro.
Right? I'm like, dude. He stopped. He's like, "Hey, man, you got a problem?" I'm like reaching for my firearm on my side, and I'm like, "No, Ball, you got a problem? I don't know you. You don't know me.
Be like,
There's
you let
no
me know.
issues." Right?
Let me know there can be.
I need you to keep driving, you know, and I'm telling my girls just, hey, walk a little faster, get to the store. So, you know, so control, be in control. So CBT didn't help me. You want me to keep reliving my incident when they're called stuck points.
Oh, bro, I hated that.
I know.
I'd rather do prolonged exposure, honestly.
Absolutely. Let's immerse yourself like the cold plunge.
Yeah.
Get it in, get it done, get it over.
Yeah, numb me to it until I'm okay to bear it on my own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, hypnotherapy is very similar, is that we can tell yourself consciously, you can look in the mirror and tell myself, you're amazing. You're amazing. You don't need to be in control. You're going to have to say it 1,000 times to yourself before you even begin to believe it.
Yeah.
So, and that's your conscious mind because you're not going to be able to get past all those negative things that you told yourself. Yeah. So for me, hypnotherapy worked.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. So you go to your subconscious, you know, and it's much easier to navigate. You don't have all those intrusive conscious thoughts, and they're telling you, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You don't have to be in control. You know this. And it's in your subconscious mind. So, and it's from the studies that I've done and what my hypnotherapist told me is that you can actually speed up that process from 1,000 times to maybe 100 times. Wow. That's all you got to do to start believing that. And gives me a tape that I can actually just listen to over and over on my own. So I'll lay in the bed and listen to the whole process. I'll hypnotize myself listening to this tape.
Yeah.
and then just hear it over and over again. So
Can your daughter say when I clap my hands, you'll call like a bird?
So the biggest thing with hypnotherapy is
Or is it
that's
different?
funny.
This is
I've,
different.
I've actually asked that. I was like, "Are you going to make me look like a chicken?" And she's like, "No, no, no." She said, "There's with hypnotherapists, and especially when it comes to treatment, they can't give you suggestions that go against your own moral code.
Of course.
So things that are ingrained in you, that who you are, and your brain during the process. Once you're doing this hypnotherapy and you're in your subconscious, she can't give me hey, this is how you're going to react to this, because I'm going to be like, oh, wait a minute. And then you start to come out of it because you're like, wait a minute, that goes against what I
Your moral
think,
beliefs and
your
stuff.
moral beliefs and what you think.
That makes sense.
So you're not, I'm not going to quack like a chicken every
I mean,
time
you can't
a
be in a
car honks.
permanent state of hypnosis.
Right.
So,
I honestly didn't think I could be hypnotized.
really.
I was like, dude, I'm too
I mean,
strong.
I'm a skeptic. I'm going to have to try it out.
So was I. I was absolutely a skeptic. And then the next thing you know, she's like, so how long do you think you were down? I was like, I don't think I actually really went down. You just told me to count. She's like, this was 45 minutes.
Get outta
I
here.
was like, no way.
Get outta here.
I was like, man,
crazy.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
there's other things I've tried. Yoga's fun. I think I'm too fat and out of shape for yoga.
I just feel like I'm going to get to a certain point, and I feel like the Kool-Aid man on a yoga mat. So
Right. Yeah. Don't wear solid colors.
like a unitard kind of thing. Definitely not.
Acupuncture. I've done a little bit of acupuncture.
No, I think Nick and the crew just recently did something like that.
Really? So I think acupuncture is great. I've done that. Big on stress relief. I don't know the theory behind it. I couldn't tell you. I just know that, acupuncture, the doctor hooked up a couple little electronic things to some of them, and it kind of, just give you a little jolt.
Yeah.
And he said it helped to stimulate the muscles, to loosen them up.
Cool.
To get you to heal, I guess. And so
I think ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what specific thing you do to help you feel better.
right.
As long as whatever you're doing helps you reach that goal, then so be it. Like let goats stand on your back while you're doing the downward dog. Like get acupuncture, go into a sensory deplacement chamber, play the guitar,
Fishing.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fisherman.
I love fishing too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fishing's great. Play video games with your kids or by yourself, or
Right.
don't gamble. I don't recommend that.
You just killed all the business to the Hard Rock. Just so you know.
Sorry, guys.
So it's-
I'm sure they'll be fine.
yeah.
That's the most important part. Find something that works for you, and I think that's why we're here, is so we can talk, and we can talk to people like you who are veterans now, and law enforcement officer, and we could talk to people who are your average Joes and Janes and everybody in between. I think the goal of this project here, this nonprofit, is to find solutions that work for you.
Right.
And to know, and I always say this, it's like my tagline is to know that there's hope even when you think there's not.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on today.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me. This is a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
So anytime you want to come back, and not even with cameras, we can sit and talk about this for hours.
Oh, I'm going to take you up on that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
So we'll
Thanks,
do that.
Dustin. I appreciate it. All right,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.